What's the most fun BMW that you can get for not much money? Well, there's plenty to choose from, but my personal favorite is this. The E46 3 Series with 6 mighty cylinders. This here is my new 2001 325i Touring, finished in turquoise gray, color which I wasn't aware was a color of a gray leather interior. To quote Jeremy Clarkson, straight 6 at the front, proper manual gearbox in the middle, power to the rear wheels, and in this particular configuration you get oodles of space in the back. As a car enthusiast, this is a recipe that'll have you smiling every time you get behind the wheel. And now voice over me will take over to tell you a story of how I ended up with this motorized vehicle.
Right, I've owned 8 E46s so far in various configurations, but never a touring. I've been looking for one sporadically so I can relieve my E39 M5 from city driving and, more importantly, winter driving. The E46 that I wanted had to fit the following: 325i or 330i, touring, and manual gearbox. Oh, and it had to be cheap. This one popped up for sale in Cologne, which is about 2 hours away from where I live in Frankfurt. But since I was busy working on Project Dubai, I enlisted help from my good friend Rafael, who lives in Cologne. My instinct was telling me this could be a good example, so I asked him to go and see it. For me, the most important aspect is that it's not a rust bucket, which is near impossible to see in Germany, but this one looked promising. His first impressions were good, and after shrewdly negotiating with the seller, we agreed on the price and the car was bought. Rafael had it stored for me and then later delivered the car with his enclosed trailer. Grazie, Rafa.
And here we are. Let's see if my instinct was right and I ended up with a good car or a third. First of all, this is a two-owner car. First owner actually had it since new until 2016 when the second owner took over, and here we are in 2020 and I'm the third caretaker of this vehicle. It has full service history with original service book, all tooth inspections. It has 199,000 kilometers and I was able to verify that as original through BMW service system. It was serviced at the main dealer until 2017. The tooth inspection or MOT expired, I believe, in January, which is another reason this car went for cheap, because that needs to be renewed. Anyway, we'll start the tour from the front. There's a bit of clear coat peel going on the hood over here. I don't plan to do anything about that. The headlights are a bit yellow, especially the left one, and the right one says Depot on it. And we all know how much I like Depot headlights. But it doesn't really matter, as I plan to refurbish these headlights with xenon projectors. This turn signal is low on fluid. It had matte black kidney grills, which I really didn't like in this color combination, so I opted to install original chrome ones. And in my opinion, that looks much better. The front bumper looks good, no cracks. There is some scratches over here on the corner, which is not that big of a deal. We have a small ding on the fender right over here, but that's fine, that's just for good luck. It came with 16-inch winter tires, which are going to stay for winter. I sourced these style 68 17-inch wheels with almost brand new Dunlop summer tires, and I think they just look perfect for this car. The windshield is unfortunately cracked, so I'm gonna have to replace that. The cowl is not looking very good either. The wipers are no longer wipery. And then if you go further down the line, everything looks nice and lovely. There is no rust on the doors, on the seals, on the fenders, anywhere. There is some glue residue here that I need to remove. I don't know what happened there. That's probably glued. 2 scratches on the door here, but that I'm going to be able to polish. Then everything looks nice and lovely here. No rust. This bumper appears to be a bit different color than the rest of the car, depending on which angle you look at it. It doesn't look too bad, so I'm not going to do anything about that. Then we come around back where everything is tidy. These inner taillights are a bit faded, so they could use a bit of polishing. And now the drinker's side. This being a German car, it was bound to have some rust, as we have some bubbling on the fender here. The good news is this is the only bit of rust that I found on the whole car, and to be honest, this doesn't look too bad and looks somewhat easily fixable. I've never repaired rust in my life, but I'll do some proper research and see how to do it, or I'll hire a guy to do it. The rest of it looks good. There is no rust on the doors, on the seals. The front right fender looks good as well. This turn signal is extremely yellow, so I like to replace that. And that's about it as far as the exterior goes. Not much is going to change here except the window trim. I don't like the chrome look along with this faded trim in the middle. So I already sourced and bought glossy Shadowline window trim that came off a M Sport package touring. And this, I think, is going to be the biggest visual improvement for this car. I really like the look of the high glossy finish, so I'll have this installed in part 2. Now we're going to move to the interior. I love the way this hatch opens. I think this is a great design. And the boot. The back of it looks nice and tidy. There is no crazy staining on the carpet. The speaker cover is broken, so I'll need to replace that. We have the battery here, and that is Varta. And that tells me that someone didn't mind spending money on these cars. That is the expensive and good quality battery. Then we have some tools here, I believe. Yeah, that's the factory jack, the triangle. We have the pathetic little space saver here. The floor looks good. There is no signs of damage anywhere. Does this thing have air? Yeah, it has some air. That's good. Let me demonstrate the loading capacity of this thing. That goes down. Nice. The rear seats in this thing look amazing. They basically look like they haven't been used at all. The leather is still perfect, nice and soft, without any rips or tears. And looky here, we have this knob that you turn and the window goes down. Isn't that something? Who needs electric window regulators? As you shall find out in a bit, they're already broken in this car. The headliner looks perfect. It's not hanging anywhere. All of the pillars are really nice as well. Moving to the front. That is a great sound. Also, yeah, the window regulator is shot. Unfortunately, the last owner was a smoker. As you can see, cigarette ash absolutely everywhere. So I'll need to remove the seats and thoroughly scrub the carpets. On the plus side, it really doesn't smell that bad inside. Like, you can't even tell that someone was smoking in here. This door panel is damaged here, presumably burned by cigarettes. So I'll need to source a replacement one. The driver's seat, it looks okay, but there is some wear on the bolster right over here, which I believe I can just re-dye and that'll come out lovely. The steering wheel is in nice condition. It doesn't have any abnormal wear, so I don't have to do anything there. The shift knob is showing somewhere, and I'm not the biggest fan of this one, so I'll replace it with the ZHB one. The passenger seat looks good. I don't know what that is, but it looks a lot better than the driver's seat. The engine starts up nicely. No issues there. However, I know that the oil level sensor is shot because the yellow oil level warning comes up, and we have naturally the trifecta lights. I already have an idea what that is. The AC is working fine. We have the stock radio, which I really like. I hate when they put the stupid aftermarket ones, so having the stock one is really good. Also, I found like a zillion lighters in this thing. There's like 3 more down there. That is a healthy engine. Let me demonstrate the window regulator. There we go. So yeah, that's bad. And now we come to the beating heart of this car, the M54 engine. This engine is where my love for BMWs began. My first BMW was a 2002 530i that took me up and down all California and never let me down. There is so much to love about this engine. It's modern enough that it'll be comfortable and reliable for daily driving, but it's not modern enough that only a machine can fix it. An actual human being like myself can work on it and fix it. And I don't need to use my degree in computer science to do it. I love it for its simplicity and for what you get in return. A silky smooth straight 6 that likes to rev, packs a nice punch, and with a proper exhaust, it sounds amazing. E46 on its own is a phenomenal chassis, lovely handling characteristics with sharp steering, and add this engine into the mix and you get pure driving pleasure from the ultimate machine. Now let's take it inside and continue the inspection. Let's pop the hood. So what can I find in the engine bay? Well, besides being very dusty and filthy, I can see that there's a sticker here that says that the oil change was done in September of 2018 at 178,000 kilometers. They used the liquid moly, which is great, but they used 10W40, which is too thick for this engine. I prefer 5W40 for this engine. So the oil change needs to be done. Brake fluid was changed in December of 2017, so that's overdue. Brake fluid should be changed every 2 years, regardless of the mileage. As with any engine, there are some common weak areas. I'm not going to cover them all because there's plenty of video on that already. But like any old good BMW, it likes to leak oil. And I can see that there's oil leak coming from the valve cover gasket, and it's actually dripping on a heat shield above the exhaust manifold. So I'll need to replace the gasket, and since I'll have the cover off, I'm going to refresh the vanos and do the seals. The power steering reservoir is wet. That is a fairly common thing on these cars. So I'm going to replace the reservoir and both the power steering lines. That's fairly easy and cheap to do. The level is good, but the fluid is a bit brownish, so It needs to be refreshed. I'm also going to do a general service of the engine, like belts, pulleys, spark plugs, and I also noticed that it's idling a bit rough when it's cold. So I'm going to remove the idle control valve and clean it. While I'm at it, I'm going to inspect the condition of the diesel valve. The cooling system is another thing that needs close attention, since due to age, plastic loves to crack and coolant escapes. Let's not forget this is a 20-year-old car basically, so whenever I buy an M54 in which I don't have records of cooling system ever being serviced, I like to be ahead of the game and replace everything. All of the cooling hoses, water pump, thermostat, expansion tank, and that way I know everything is new and the car is reliable enough to drive it anywhere and it won't leave me stranded. I can also see from above that the electric fan is new. It's nice and shiny, so that's a plus. I really prefer this setup over a stupid Visco fan clutch that drives off the water pump. Let's see what the cabin air filter looks like. Nice and toasty. Right, I believe that is everything from the top. Now we're going to go underneath and see what we find there. Oh no, oil leaks. What a shocking surprise. Looks like this engine is having trouble holding its liquor. So let's remove this cover and see where it's coming from. That is very oily. I can already see that the drain plug is leaking. Oh, look at that, it even has all of the clips here. Those are always missing. That is a very good sign. Well, slap me silly and call me Willie. I don't see any rust in this car. Well, that went well. And it's coming from the oil pan gasket. That sounds about right at this mileage. Steering rack, it's good. And it's from 2007, so that's been replaced. Ooh, the radiator is not looking so good. It's actually collapsing. So I'll definitely need a new radiator. Belts are looking great, absolutely no cracks in them, so that doesn't need to be replaced. Power steering pump is looking good. The lines not so much, they're leaking. All of the ball joints look good, incredible. Sway bar links look good, they have been replaced. The struts look original, but they're not leaking, so. And I drove this car, it feels good, so that doesn't need to be replaced. The brake lines look good, they don't have any cracks. The brakes are good. The front rotors don't have a lip at all. The chassis legs look good. There are no signs of accidents or anything like that. The control arm bushings look okay. They don't have any cracks or leaks, so they must have been replaced at some point. And if you go further down the line, the gearbox is very wet, but I bet you that's just coming from the front. As you can see here, the wind is blowing it all the way through the exhaust actually. The flex disc is showing some cracks, so that'll need to be sorted in the near future. Not something that I need to do immediately though. All of the jacking points look perfect. There is absolutely no rust anywhere. I mean, look at that. That is amazing. And this is a German car. Don't forget that. They always rust. There is some surface corrosion like here, but that's nothing in here. That can be fixed easily. But the jacking point, it's perfect. Absolutely no rust. The rear shocks were replaced. The Monroe reflects. That won't be my first choice, but it's better than having blown shocks, I guess. That spring looks new as well. The rear brakes are good as well. No lip. Almost new pads. There is some surface corrosion on some metals, but that's easy enough to wire off and then just spray some paint on it. You know what? I cannot believe that this is a German car. There is no rust to speak of. This is just phenomenal. I really, really hate rust, so I have another rust-free car. Yay! So now I'm going to check if there's any play in the wheels, which means I have to lift the front end in the air. I love this thing, by the way. Nothing, no play. This side is good. The front suspension is very tight. Let's check the rear. Nothing. And this one is good as well. No suspension issues on this car. That's really nice. 4 errors in the engine computer. These are all shadow codes, so you can clear all of those. Control unit internal failure, 5D F5. So that means that the ABS pump is kaput. So to answer my own question, how much E46 can you get for 1,100 euros? Well, turns out a lot. Overall, I'm very happy and excited about this touring. It's exactly what I was hoping for. A car that was well taken care of all of its life, but kinda neglected for the last few years. With a bit of money and some effort, this will be a great daily driver. It also makes me very proud and happy to announce, in case that wasn't clear enough, that we have Liqui Moly on board with this project. I reached out to them and told them what I was doing, and they kindly agreed to send a full care package to replace all of the fluids on this car. I'm a big fan of their products and a long-time consumer of their oils, so I'm very excited about this development. Big thanks to Liqui Moly for supporting this project, and in the next video you'll see me replacing all of these fluids. Now, I was planning to end the video here, but since I simply do not have enough free time to upload videos that often, I am going to give you a little sneak peek of another upcoming project that's behind the camera. Let me grab the keys from my M5 from the compartment of many things and many keys. Where is it? No, it's that one. Feast your eyes on this E60 M5, the cheapest of its sort in the world. As you would expect, in the middle of this filth is the proper gearbox, 6-speed manual. Oh yes! I'm gonna let it warm up and then I'm gonna give you a couple of revs. Are you ready? What a glorious noise! This car is going to be something special and rather unique in Europe. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. As you can see, I have plenty more projects and videos slowly but steady coming your way. See you next time. I am a happy man with many broken BMWs. The E46 3 Series, finished in blah. Not finished. Power to the rear drives. To the rear drives? What? Over light greta interior. Light greta interior, what the 188,000. F***ing hell, I can't even read, dude.